My name is Claude, and this webinar is provided to you courtesy of the City of Miramar, Economic and Business Development Department. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a real pleasure for me to introduce our speaker today, who is going to talk to us about everything you need to know about government contracts. Our speaker is a great educator, mentor, and advocate for inclusion and diversity in government procurement. You will learn today that your federal, state, and local government buy all types of products, goods, and services in both large and small quantities. Some of these contracts are set aside exclusively for small businesses. Government contracts, ladies and gentlemen, offer great financial opportunity for small businesses. Our speaker has a wealth of experience in government purchasing. She's recognized as a champion for business inclusion and diversity in procurement in South Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to present to you Anthea Pennant, District Director, Supplier Diversity, Broward College. Thank you. Go ahead, Anthea.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. And I'm happy to be able to have this opportunity to talk with you a little bit about government contracting. And I want to keep the conversation somewhat informal, because I think that the whole government procurement process can become so laborious and oftentimes feel very stodgy. So I want to lighten the conversation in a manner that will allow folks to understand what a great opportunity that exists in this area of doing business, that I think oftentimes small and minority-owned businesses are just struggling to participate in. And if I may just go ahead and share my slide. Are you seeing the presentation? Are you seeing, is it in presentation mode? It doesn't seem as if it is.
Yes, go ahead.
It is in presentation mode. Okay.
Correct.
Perfect. All right. So I almost wish that I had an open forum and we weren't doing this virtual, because I would ask folks to just raise your hands if you've ever gotten a government contract. But I know that if the room was filled with 100 of you, that only a very small percentage would be able to raise your hands and say, yes, I have successfully won a government contract. So my session today is to talk about the amount of opportunities that exist across our counties, and to just really go through each of the stages of the procurement process and what is important for you to learn when you are trying to access a government contract. So, in this slide, there's just a basic overview. Between Miami-Dade County and Broward County, there's $222 billion being spent every single year, year after year. In fact, that budget typically grows. $222 billion of your tax dollars are going towards buying goods and services by a variety of government agencies. Yet we have small businesses complaining all the time that they are not able to access any of these government contracts. And they want government agencies, whether it's the school board, the county, Broward College, to spend more dollars with them. And then on the other hand, you have the government agencies that are saying all the time, where are the small businesses? We're creating opportunities for them, but they are not participating. And today I want to walk you through that process. I know at the beginning when Claude started talking, I was panicking for a minute, because I was thinking, is he expecting me to unveil all the opportunities that exist? The reality is the federal government is providing a tremendous amount of opportunities for small business owners. They're looking for Black-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, small businesses, you name it, veteran-owned businesses. They need your business. And at the state level and at the county level and of course, in the city of Miramar. They're looking for you, but we're not seeing the level of participation from our small business owners. And so hopefully at the end of this presentation, you'll get a better idea of what you need to do. So this is the problem. How do we increase the number of contracts awarded to small, minority, and women-owned businesses by government-funded agencies? They're seeking to buy your goods and services, and so you need to be ready. And so the solution strategy, of course, I often think is twofold. We in the procurement world, whether we're procurement directors or supply diversity professionals, we have to help you. We have to create those opportunities to bring you to the table because we are seeking to purchase goods and services from you. But I also believe that there is work that our small business owners have to do. It's not enough to just started your business. There is still some work that you have to do. And so if I were to say to those of you who are participating this morning, if I decided that at Broward College, we wanted to offer you a $10 million contract today, would you be ready? $100 million contract. You want to do business with the government. If we handed you a contract today, how ready would you be to take on that challenge or to take on that opportunity? I suspect that there are some folks who would probably say, we're not quite ready yet, and there's some things that we need to do. And so we're going to talk a little bit about some of what we've heard over the years. I can tell you from the procurement professional side, we've heard a lot with respect to the administration of businesses. Do they have a research development concept that they're working with? Because the truth of the matter is, your typical business, large corporations, medium-sized corporations, they have these 7 elements in place when doing business. And I realize that as a small business owner, you cannot necessarily hire an administration. You cannot open your research and development department. You don't have a human resource department. You don't have a lawyer on staff. But the reality is that these elements are required in order for you to do business. And so you kind of end up being jack of all trades. And so I want you to keep this perspective in mind, because these are the elements that are required for running a successful business. And so if you don't have these elements in your business, you need to, in addition to being the tradesperson and the specialist in your field, you need to figure out which of these elements can you bring to the table. And if not, how can you leverage that resource externally through a consultant, through pro bono services that might be offered at the city or any other entity that provides resources in support of small businesses. But keep these elements in mind: the administration, the accounting, the financing, all of the elements of a standard business. So, I am a part of the conversation about how we can help our small businesses. And I hear from different supply diversity professionals and procurement professionals, and you hear comments such as small businesses sometimes lack a strategy. There's no business planning. They don't have the back house support to compete. Marketing is lackluster. They're not doing the research. They're not really getting to understand the nuances of the bid process. Finances is an issue. They need to leverage capital and don't really have good credit. We've heard all of it. The pricing sometimes is off. So we hear all the gaps. We've heard all the concerns from the professionals. But the truth of the matter is, the whole government contracting process is truly laborious. It is difficult. It is not easy. And so I'm not going to do the smoke and screen business with you. We want to talk real talk today. It's a process, and it's a convoluting process. It's not something that you will understand overnight. And so you have to really take some time to get to understand the process. I know for many years we've talked about certification. You need to get certified. You need to get certified. And for a long time, it seemed like that was the mantra for getting a government contract. And the truth of the matter is, it's not simply about accessing government contract. The process is not about just accessing, becoming certified to access government contract. There is so much more to it. But I also recognize that it can sometimes be very confusing. You'll hear folks say, well, you know, you need to get registered with us. You need to get registered and you need to get certified and you need to enroll in our program. Well, what does all of that mean? It sometimes is used interchangeably, the word registration. So I'm going to break this little piece down in this session. Registration requires you to register your business as a legitimate business. That's what that means. And it's kind of like getting your social security that allows you to do business. You get an EIN number. It's the same thing like getting a social security number, right? And certification is what designates you and your business as being eligible to participate in a small business program that will give you some added bonus points at the scoring table. When they're reviewing a bid and they're trying to evaluate who should win the bid, that gives you some additional points. But you won't always have that privilege, because if suddenly you are no longer a small business, you will lose that privilege. Just like if you drove your car and you were a drunk driver, you could lose your privilege, right? You could essentially graduate out of the program, which is a good thing, right? But certification designates your race, your size. You could be veterans, any veterans preference, the gender specifications. That's what that does. And so some government agencies require you to become certified. Not all. At Broward College, for example, we don't do a certification. We accept certifications from other entities. And so what we ask is that you enroll in our small business program. And your enrollment in our small business program still affords you some of the benefits that you would have because you are certified. Now, in order to enroll in our program, you have to have had a certification, because that's one of the qualifying components for being enrolled in our program. And I hope, at least, if you learn nothing else today, you understand that basic requirement. And it seems simple enough because we've had so many workshops on the whole certification, registration, and program enrollment process. Enrollment really allows you to be a part of that small business program. Sometimes you will hear agencies say, we want you to register with us. And a lot of times those are the agencies that have a certification program. They want to know who you are. And that's what that is. But I want to jump ahead here to helping you just kind of understand these 4 elements of the whole government contracting process. Take some time to get to understand the procurement supply diversity process. And, Claude, I will make this presentation available so folks can have it, to just kind of use it as a continual guide to help them understand the procurement process. You need to understand what government procurement and the supply diversity office, what our role is. And then, of course, understanding the pre-purchase, pre-bid process, P-card and actual bid process, and then the post-purchase and award process. So I'm going to go through that. And that really is the foundation of this presentation today, is to just really walk you through each of these components so you'll have a better understanding of what is required. So let's start with the procurement process. If you are looking to do business with a government agency, you need to understand where the process starts. It starts really with the department heads. They are the ones that are coming to the procurement department and saying, hey, we need to buy some IT equipment. We need to buy chairs for our offices, whatever it is. And they are the ones that are saying we need 10 chairs or we need 100 chairs. And we have a budget of X, and that's what we want to spend. And so that's where it starts. Now, I want you to keep in mind, there are 3 different ways that you can engage as someone who is providing a good or service to a government agency. They're what's called P-card purchases. And this is where maybe a department, someone in the department said, you know what, I just want to buy 1 chair. I don't need 100. And so you can use your purchase card, which is a credit card, to make that purchase. This is not an opportunity to just say, well, I don't have time to sell them 1 chair. Maybe you want to sell them 1 chair because it is a way for you to get your foot in the door and start building that relationship. And then, of course, there's the bid process, which is a lot more laborious through RFQs, RFPs, and ITNs, and so on. And then, of course, there's a subcontracting component when you try to leverage a contract through a prime contractor. The department heads are the ones that determine exactly what items gets purchased and so on and so forth. But they also participate in the scoring process. Once a bid is submitted, or the price is submitted, they're the ones that saying yay or nay, we want to go with that particular contractor. So it's critical for you to build relationships with these department heads. And then, of course, there's a procurement piece. Making sure, Claude, I think I'm not using the presentation screen. I just want to double check. Are you seeing 2 slides or 1?
I'm seeing 2.
Okay, so I want to stop for a second because that was not my intent. I need to stop sharing for a second because I'm realizing that I'm pointing and I'm pointing at the wrong. Okay, so I'm going to share again. Okay, there we are. Okay, better. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so because I know the print here is smaller, and it just occurred to me that folks may not be seeing this. So that the second component is the procurement department. And we basically work in tandem. In my role, of course, I work in tandem with the procurement department. Supply Diversity Office and the procurement department works in tandem. And we operate essentially as the legal brokers for the purchase, the item that's going to be purchased. We are the ones that's facilitating to make sure that whatever the department needs, they're able to get, and we are making sure that the folks who want to sell them the items come together. And so in the procurement office, these are some of the functions they're doing: the advertising, the writing solicitations, they're doing managing the pre-bid meetings and initiating cone of silence and all of that. That's their function. And my role, say at Broward College, for example, is to advocate on your behalf. So whenever you are, as a small business, you're trying to access a government contract, make sure you're building your relationship with your supplier diversity manager or director, because they are your advocate. They can help to provide you with the guidance that you need as you explore these opportunities. But these are just some of the fundamentals of understanding what happens in the procurement process. And so now, what do you need to do in order to ready yourself to do business, right? And there's a lot of work. And so I'm going to spend a little time in this on this particular slide, because I just think that oftentimes the steps are missed. So I want to encourage business owners to develop some kind of business action plan. Realize I didn't say a business plan, because I think oftentimes people pay to get a business plan. It is quite sophisticated, and it's a document that they just set aside. A business plan for you should just be a one-pager, almost like a shopping list. What is it that you are hoping to accomplish? What product, what good are you trying to sell? Who do you want to sell that product to, right? Just as basic as you can get it. Just put your thoughts on paper so you have some kind of a plan. and then figure out what are the next steps. And I'm hoping that this presentation will give you some pointers, a way for you to develop that plan. You know, some of the things that you need to do. For example, what I mean is, once you've created this plan, I want you to figure out, you know, did you do this? Did you register? Did you complete your enrollment? And if you've done, check it off. Do you have a capability statement? And what is a capability statement? It's basically your corporate resume. And it's important for you to have that, because essentially some of what you put in that capability statement will become part of what you use when you submit a bid, because it essentially highlights your capabilities, your level of experience. And so you may have started a business a year ago, but you started the business a year ago because you had worked for another company for 20 years and you were their star employee, star performer, and you decided, I don't want to work for anyone anymore. I want to start my own business. And so you need to include on that capability statement 20 years experience selling chairs. You want to include that as part of your corporate profile, because your company now comes with that 21 years, 20 years you work for the company and the 1 year that you've been in business, right? And if you have other partners that are working with you that understand how to sell chairs, for example, then leverage their experience as well. That's how it's done. Make sure you've identified who is going to be your delivery person and all of the pieces. Make sure you have those things. But the other area that I want to bring to your attention that is of really critical importance, the consultants that you bring to the table. And, you know, I often talk about networking, and we'll touch on networking a little bit more. And I say, when you go networking, it's not about just exchanging business cards and meeting some people and checking out the guy who's cute or the girl who's really pretty. It's really more about making sure that you are making some real connections that will support your business. What I mean by that? If you are not a great writer of bids and you don't know how to prepare a bid, that's what you need to be looking for. Someone who will help you write your bids. Someone who's a good writer, period. Maybe they've never written a bid, but because writing may not be your strength, or you don't even have the time for that, start identifying who that person could be. Do you know how to do the estimation on your bid when you submit a bid? And if you're not clear about how to do that, make sure you're networking for that. And then an accountant. Make friends with someone. Try to get to meet someone who could provide the accounting component that your business will need. But in addition to setting up the foundational administrative piece, the next piece here, the research and development component, is really, really critical. Because it's important for you to have all the administrative pieces in place just to make sure that your business is running. Sorry. Oops. Hold on. I don't know why I went back. Sorry. So it's important for you to have these pieces in place just to be able to have a good functioning business. But if you're looking at government contracts, you really need to spend some time with research and development. And you can do this on your own. It's not really that difficult. Most government agencies are willing to support you and provide information. But you need to, first of all, identify the agencies that are interested in buying whatever it is that you decide you want to sell. And you want to make sure they're actually buying it. Don't start going to the school board or the county and saying, I'm trying to sell chairs. But in trying to sell the chairs, they're saying, well, we're not buying. Why is this moving? We're not buying chairs, so we can't buy your chairs. So just make sure that you identify exactly what it is that they're buying. And as you are interacting with that agency, find out if they have a copy of the winning bid that they can send to you. A copy of the winning bid from the last time someone won a bid selling chairs, right? Or to the county, for example. you want to make sure you get a copy of it and take a look at it, because sometimes there are languages embedded in that bid that might exclude you from participating. And if you're not sure how to do that, ask someone. Maybe there's an attorney or someone who might be able to provide that information for you. Get to know the prime contractors who are in your trade. If you know of someone else who's selling chairs, get to know who they are, because sometimes they may have an order that they cannot fill, and you could be that person that they go to and say, hey, I have an order. They just want 50 chairs. I normally only deliver 100. And so if you know who that person is, then you can engage with them and build a relationship. Know your competitors. They're not really your enemies. Sometimes you can joint venture with them, but large corporations do that all the time. And then, of course, make sure you're checking on your credit worthiness. If your credit is not the best, you want to start working on getting it ready, because that will affect whether or not you get insured. It will affect your bonding capacity, which, and certainly not all the times, depending on what you're selling, you'll need to get insurance or bonding. But if you're in construction, for example, that's going to be a big deal. And so you want to make sure that you're working to strengthen your capacity in those ways. And of course, having the ability to leverage capital is also a factor if you don't have great credit. And then, of course, the business card, marketing, website, all of the things that you need to do. I'm going to pause here and just kind of focus a little bit on number 2 under marketing. This is one of the things that I have been sharing with small businesses over and over again, and oftentimes I think they miss how critically important it is. It's the pre-bid sessions, attending pre-bid sessions if you are trying to go after a bid. If there a solicitation that's been advertised and there is a pre-bid meeting, I want to suggest to you that you try to go to every single one that you can. And sometimes those pre-bid meetings are not specific to the product that you are selling, right? But it could be a supporting item to what you're selling. Going to pre-bid meetings will help you to come upfront and close with department heads, the procurement professionals, the supply diversity professional in the room, other corporations that are trying to sell the same product. Some of your competitors are there. It's a way for you to start building your relationship and networking with these folks. Get their cards. So next time, maybe it's not a bid at Broward College, maybe it's a bid at the school board. They will remember you. Start showing up to those events. And then, of course, if you have consultants, have them show up. The next piece on the marketing is the oral presentation. It's very important that if you are not the best speaker in your business, that you either hire someone who has those kind of marketing skills and teach them what it is about your business that is so fabulous. Share that information with them, so they can become the spokesperson when you have to make an oral presentation during the bid process. And of course, I want to encourage you to join trade associations and chambers. Next slide. Now, this is the next component. I talked earlier about the purchase card component. Establishing relationship with your buyers. I will say, I cannot say this enough. Oftentimes people want to jump all the way to winning a bid, but the reality is build your relationships by accessing these opportunities. You would be amazed at how much money is spent just by folks doing PO purchases, what they call purchase orders, or just using the purchase card to make a purchase. And if it's only 10 or 20 or up to $30,000 a year, it is still something. It's still revenue coming into your business. But more than anything else, it allows you to start building that relationship. It allows the agency to see that, you know what, when I wanted one chair, man, they delivered that chair the next day just as I expected. When I wanted 10, they did the same thing. And so you're starting to cultivate that relationship. And now this is something you can add to your corporate profile, that Broward College is now one of your clients because you sold them one chair. So you want to learn about that P card process. And then, of course, the subcontracting piece. Most of you probably know that. You know a little bit more about the P card, the subcontracting process, because you have done business with a large contractor who has the experience and they're at the table, but you want to make sure that you continue to establish relationships with prime contractors. Join trade associations and chambers, because that's a way for you to get to know some of the folks that are in your business. And of course, I talked quite a bit before about the pre-bid meetings. And when a prime contractor says, you know, I want to bring you on as a sub, respond. If they call you, respond. The more responsive you are, the more likely they'll call you again when they have something else. Even if you were unsuccessful in previous opportunities, you want to continue to engage with them and be as responsive as you can. And then, of course, the final segment here, this is the third way that agencies do business. It's with prime contractors. And if you decide that, you know what, I have the experience, I'm strong enough as a business, I have my credit, I have the right people at the table, and I can do this contract. And then you be your own prime contractor. But make sure you take the time to read the solicitation so you respond accordingly. Right? Read every page of the solicitation and highlight the components that they say you must have. You shall, the language there, shall and must, can make a big difference in terms of how you respond. When they say they need something and they must have it, they really mean that they want it. So you must provide it. And of course, attend the pre-bid meetings. And now, number 3 on the prime contractors, submit bids. We're not seeing small businesses submit bids. You know, you can't complain about not participating in the process if you are not submitting bids. Submit the bids. Even if you're unsuccessful, there is an opportunity for you to come back later on and say, I submitted my bid, I was unsuccessful, what can I do better next time? So submit your bid, because it might be the way for you to get your foot in the door, to have a conversation, to get some guidance as to what you could do differently the next time you submit. And maybe you're not submitting with me, maybe you're submitting elsewhere, but it will certainly help you for future opportunities. And now for the final leg in this path to creating the kind of change that we want to see. Hopefully, some of this will resonate with you, and you will start doing some of these things. Whether you're trying to just purchase, participate in the contracting process. If you're unsuccessful, certainly you want to call up your supply diversity professional and say to them, I submitted for this bid, I was unsuccessful. Chances are they may know, but introduce yourself. I'd like an opportunity to talk with you. It's called the protest process, but I don't like to call it that, because I think you want to come in wanting to understand where you went wrong, right? If you come in protesting and say, I don't understand why I didn't get this bid, you may turn people off. So it's really important that you are coming in with an attitude of wanting to learn, right? But once you are successful in obtaining a contract, I want to encourage you to make sure you're reading your contract. Seriously reading your contract so you understand what the deliverables are. I want you to engage legal advice, and if you can't afford it, maybe just talk to someone whose opinion and insight you trust, to make sure that you don't just go ahead and sign a contract and obligate yourself to something that you cannot deliver on. And then, of course, make sure you're clarifying the start date for your contract and obtaining a payment schedule, preferably in writing. because I know a lot of small businesses, oftentimes when they've won a contract, especially even in a subcontracting capacity, it's never clear to them when the contract is going to start, when they're going to get paid, and oftentimes, sometimes they don't get paid in a timely fashion, and that is crucial. That could be devastating for a small business. If you need someone to talk to about slow payment, talk to your supply diversity professional. They are, again, your advocate. And then, of course, actually, the contract management component. Folks, I'm telling you, when you win a bid, the gig is not up. The gig is really starting, right? You have to continue to be a good steward of this contract. You want to make sure you're delivering your goods and services on time and within budget. You want to engage a really strong customer service. If you are called, respond. You want to submit your invoices in a timely fashion, right? Just at the same time, you should have an expectation for timely payments, right? And if you need a line of credit in order to start the job, initiate wherever you can. And I know some, Broward County, I know has some special opportunities for small businesses to tap into in the event that they need some initial funding to start a project. And be conservative in your spending initially. Don't go out and buy a BMW just because you've won a contract. And then on the third piece, the continuous marketing component. Piggybacking is another way for you to use this contract that you have won to leverage another contract with another government agency. They welcome these opportunities because it's a cost-saving process for them. It doesn't, they don't have to go out and resubmit, re-advertise on the same thing that you already have a contract for. And then, of course, once you have a contract, it's a continuous relationship building opportunity. And, I just want to leave this with you. Engaging a capacity building strategy is really critical when you're a small business owner. It doesn't stop, right? It doesn't stop. It's continuous. First, you have to make sure that your commitment to lead your company is really solid. You can't be wishy-washy in it. You have to be certain that this is what you want to do and do the work that is needed in order to make sure you have a solid foundation from which to pivot. Make sure you have a proper decision-making structure in your company and you understand where the buck stops. And managing your resources is also very critical. And when I talk about resources, I don't just mean financial resources. I'm talking about your human resource, the people on your team, those that are doing the work for you, because how well they perform, their attitude on the job, all of that can have a long-term impact on you sustaining contracts or even leveraging new contracts. And of course, the continuing learning piece is always a component. And Broward College stands ready to support any continuous educational needs that you have. You need to understand accounting. We have all kinds of short-term certification programs that you can access. And then, of course, assemble some key advisors, people in your trade, people, elected officials, whoever it is, get them on your team so they can help guide your structure. There's just way too much opportunity across agencies, whether it's Miami-Dade or Broward. And it breaks my heart that small and minority-owned businesses are not accessing these contracts. I know for certain that at the city of Miramar, you have some strong advocates who are doing everything they can, leveraging resources across counties to educate and to support your business. So take the time to get the knowledge that you need. Take the time to enact those pieces, those tasks, do the action piece. Because it's one thing to know what to do if you don't engage the actionable side of that information, nothing happens. And that is really the true solution to change. And with that, I'd like to thank you. And Claude, we can open for some questions and answers.
Well, thank you, Anthea, for a great presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, small businesses often here get certified. Would you kindly tell us a little bit what role certification plays in the procurement process?
Okay, so certification is basically, it was created to provide almost like a level playing field for small and minority businesses. It is the whole certification process. Unfortunately, sometimes I think people think of it as some sort of an affirmative action, but it really is not. And one of the reasons why I like to celebrate supply diversity is because certification helps to create this access to the marketplace for small, minority, and women-owned businesses. Historically, Black-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, small businesses have been excluded from the government procurement process. It seemed as if only large corporations participated, but we are all tax-paying residents of Broward County, of Florida, and of this country. And if you are spending my tax dollars, I should be able to participate in the procurement process. And that's why certification was created. It was created to legitimize my designation as a minority woman. And if I had a small business, I can have any one of those certifications. I could be certified as a small business if my business is small, and that can be determined by the number of the revenue that you bring in. For construction, it's like 10 million. For almost everything else, goods and services, professional services at Broward College, it's 5 million, right? So depending on, or sometimes it's about how many people you employ, 25 or less. If you're talking federal government, you're talking 500 employees or less. So size plays a part, and certainly revenue can play a part in certifying a company as a small business. Certifying a company as a woman-owned business, they want to show some kind of proof that you are a woman. And a Black-owned business, the same thing. So that's what's the role that certification does. And once you are certified and you're in that procurement process, what it does is when the scoring is taking place, everybody is scored on one playing field. But if you are a small minority or woman-owned business and you're at the table, like in Broward College, we assign 10 additional points on that score sheet, right? And ideally, that score sheet functions independent of that 10 point. Once you've been scored on your qualifications, then that 10 points is added in. And once it's added in, if it gives you just the points you needed to take you to a higher level on the scoring sheet, then it increases your opportunity to win. And that is why we encourage folks to get certified, because by being certified, it gives you an added advantage in the procurement process. Prime contractors also enjoy some benefits, because if they bring a small business on board as one of their subcontractors in a bid process, they also enjoy some additional points. They will never get the full 10 points, as in the case of Broward College, but if, say, they decide to give 40% of the contract to a small business, then they get 4 additional points, right? Or 60%, maybe 6 points. So depending on the percentage of the contract, but listen, 30% of a contract, 40% of a contract could be big money. And so you want to position yourself so you can be at least a subcontractor, prove yourself. And maybe the next time, or if you do enough of those over time, you can become your own prime contractor. I hope that explains it, Claude.
Yes, indeed. But now, some government contracts, Anthea, are set aside exclusively for small businesses. How great of an opportunity is that for small business?
Well, there are some contracts that are set aside, and they may be set aside for different reasons. I will say that, for example, in the case of Broward schools, they were faced with doing a disparity studies because of a lawsuit, and they now have a race-specific and a gender-specific program, meaning they are outreaching to minority, Black-owned, Hispanic-owned, and women-owned businesses. And because not Hispanic, sorry, Black-owned and women-owned businesses, because the disparity study proved that they were not doing enough business with these different entities. And as far as the set-asides are concerned, this is done because sometimes the contract historically has been so big, you know, and maybe it's, let's go with that chair analogy, right, or chair example. Maybe before, the way Broward College bought chairs was they would buy 1,000 chairs at a time. And a small business owner is saying, hey, I can provide 100 chairs. And there's another small business owner saying, yeah, and I can provide 150. But because you make this contract so large, 1,000, I can't do 1,000 chairs. So when you talk to us and let us know what the challenges are, we can now go back to the department heads and say, hey, I know you want 1,000 chairs. Give us the description, the color, the size, maybe the model of chairs that you want. And I can find 10 small business owners who can provide you with at least 100 chairs a piece. You know, or maybe I find 8, and one can do 150, another can do 150, and the rest can do 100 each. So having those smaller contracts creates greater opportunities for small businesses, but you still have to build the relationships. You still need to be certified. You still need to be submitting a bid if that's what is required, or you need to build that relationship so you can use your purchase card.
Now, from the audience, a question: can a new business qualify for certification?
Absolutely. Now, I will say that there are some agencies that may have some requirements that say you need to be in business for a year before they allow you to be enrolled in your program. And usually it's no more than a year. But a new business can certainly, and listen, depending on the agency that you're going towards. I mean, I know that at Broward College, for you to do business with us, you certainly have to have your certification. And different entities that certify, the county, the school board, Florida State Minority Development Council, WeBank, the state of Florida, may have different requirements for you becoming certified. But for the most part, I think, for example, with the state of Florida, there is no time limit. They may ask you for certain documentations that you may not necessarily have because your business is so new, but generally you can.
And now, you mentioned briefly about credit worthiness. How much of an impact can credit worthiness has as far as getting a government contract?
Well, I think that the credit worthiness piece has to do with, it certainly impacts how much insurance you will get, right? Because credit affects insurance, even your car insurance, it affects that. Mm-hmm. In terms of the price of the insurance that you will get. If you have to be bonded on a particular contract, it will affect that. If you need to access loan, it will affect that. But in general terms, it doesn't necessarily impact us doing business with you. I will say though, if you're in business and your credit is not the strongest, get on a path to getting your credit stronger, because it's really an important component. Now, survival, essentially. Mm-hmm.
Sometime a new company has limited experience. So that's when you would encourage for them to work with a prime so that they could build their experience. Or what would you advise from that perspective?
So, this is one of the things, one of the reasons why I talk about having that capability statement as part of your business profile, because no one, I'm yet to find someone who decide that they're going to start a business in an area where they've had absolutely no experience, zero experience. Usually people start a business because they've had some experience doing something in that realm, or they have a partner who they're bringing into the fold that has that experience. Because, maybe you've gone on the county's website and you've done some research, or you've gone on the website of the school board or Broward College and you see where they're buying t-shirts, and you think you have some great ideas about t-shirts. Maybe you've never, ever sold a t-shirt. I think it really has to do with how well you package your product, how well you market yourself. I think all of that can give you an entree into the government contracting arena. I don't think it has to stop you. I don't think you should let anything stop you. But you also want to make sure that you are able to deliver what you're saying you're going to deliver, right? So if you're new to the business, I say make sure you're doing everything that you can to gain the experience in that field, so you can become a really good partner with the agency that you're seeking to do business with.
Anthea, any final words for the audience?
Well, I just want to say thank you to folks, and to just basically say, if you have further questions and you want to reach out to me, you are welcome to reach me at Broward College. I will guide you towards resources that I'm aware of that can help you. Maybe you're working on a bid. I know folks in the community that are doing that. I have information on estimators, but I think more than anything else, I just want to share, I serve on the Broward County Penny Tax Oversight Board. And just with that contract alone, $30 million over the next, well, now probably 28 years. Broward County is spending a lot of money. Sandy Michael McDonald is a fierce advocate for small business owners. The city of Miramar, you couldn't have a better champion for small businesses. At Broward College, we stand ready to help our small business owners. At the school board, I believe the same, and Broward Health. We're all wanting to help our small business owners, but it's important that you do your part and engage your supply diversity professionals every chance you get. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Anthea, for a great presentation. I want to also say a special thank you to Paul for his expertise. Thank you to the entire economic and business development team, and special thank you to the audience. Okay, till next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.